Now, as someone said, for decades the government has ruled the people. It's now time for the government to serve the people. So, in the drama of this election moment, who will help to shape that future? What sort of flaming inspiration are we seeing from the leading candidates? Which one is the best master of regeneration who can show us new ways of thinking about and solving this country's complex problems? Which one should we believe will give us the best measure of our days? Well, bearing in mind that these politicians are neither saints nor saviors, the question becomes, which one of them do we trust the most with the responsibility of state? Well, according to my next guest, Atiku Abubakar is the one from whom we can draw the most hope. And that assertion is coming from the advisor to the PDP Presidential Campaign Organization and former Director General of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Dr. Ladan Salihu, and he joins me now in the studio. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
I understand you guys pulled a crowd of 1 million in Bauchi today. Is that a fact or is that fantasy?
Yeah, you just said it. I can confirm to you that the crowd in Bauchi was something, for the history books. Over 1 million people flocked to the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa Memorial Stadium in Bauchi. And
Bauchi is where you're from,
Bauchi, I'm from Bauchi.
Right.
And there were more people outside the stadium than you have in the stadium. Every single seat in the stadium was taken. The playing turf was completely, if you like, submerged by the crowd. And you couldn't find a place to place a needle. It shows you the kind of acceptability, the kind of momentum, and the kind of support, grassroots, that Atiku Abubakar and the PDP have garnered over, in the course of our own campaign. And so there's no any other party within the, the bracket of this campaign that has just been, is on its closing moments. No party can boast of the support of the PDP.
Well, assuming your figures are correct, that's just one state in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
And we haven't seen those numbers in other states. And the fact remains that he would have to have that spread across the country. And according to, I'm sure you've read the new poll by Nextier, which placed the Labour Party's Peter Obi first at 37% in terms of voting favourability, and Atiku Abubakar of the PDP second at 27%, with the APC third at 24%. Do you dispute those figures, or do you accept that they could potentially be correct?
No, I think those figures are merely, statistics of those who spinned it up. I do not believe that those statistics correctly reflect the reality on the ground.
Because it doesn't favor your candidate.
No, it's not because it doesn't favor us, because it does not match the reality. It does not match common sense. It does not go in tandem with the rhythm, the heart, and the heartbeat of our people, the heartbeat of Nigerians, and the heartbeat of the PDP. We have gone to, if you look at the optics in Akwa Ibom, the ones in Kaduna, and the recent ones in Sokoto, all the optics show clearly that the PDP is not only in a winning position. This is a mismatch. This whole election, to me, is going to be not necessarily a landslide. And I told you a couple of weeks ago, we had a conversation on this forum. It may not necessarily be a landslide for the PDP, but it will be so clean. The defeat will be so devastating to the other parties that there will be no room for comparison.
Well, let's look at the analysis about how you think he's going to win. because each day the odds seem to be stacking up against him. I mean, apart from issues of corruption that have been raised against him, the support the PDP used to have in the southeast and the south has been eaten into by Peter Obi, and in the northwest by Rabiu Kwankwaso, and in the northeast by Bola Tinubu, powered by Shetima and Buhari. And in addition, with less than 3 weeks to go before the election, 5 PDP governors, the so-called G5, are still withholding support for him. So in those circumstances, how is he going to do it?
This, to me, mere, political polemics. And if there is anything that is called the academics of political interpretation, of interpreting politics using not necessarily empirical indices or indexes or whatever.
Well, we just gave you empirical stuff. We showed a poll to you, and all the polls
they have not been subjected to. They have not been subjected to empirical tests. They have not been quarantined and re-examined. It is somebody that has gone into his own, library, his own setup, his own situation room, and then come up with figures, dress them up, do a PowerPoint, come up, with the graphics, and tell Nigerians that no, PDP is not going to win. Look, let me tell you, Charles, and for the benefit of our viewers, I don't know how possible it is on the surface of the earth of the north that I know, that I have not only known, but I have reported over the course of 20 years. I know every inch of the north, our manners and mannerisms, our characters and characteristics, our attitudes to politics at the time of campaign, on the week preceding election, and during the time of elections. 24 hours in the north is as good as 6 months in terms of interpretation. There is no way, take this from me, that Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso will pose a threat to Atiku in the north outside Kano State, and even in Kano State. We are saying that we're going to be around 50-50, or Atiku, in fact, will win. So,
yeah, but the north isn't the whole of Nigeria.
Yes, I know. Yeah. And then when you go to the east, the idea of Peter Obi taking the east, on what basis? For a man that has been in the PDP 10 months ago, for a man that his party, couldn't win any of the states in the southeast. You have PDP governors predominantly in the southeast and the south-south. And one man will just come, like ring a bell and go, and then all the boys will come out to the classroom. Politics is not played like that. Peter Obi may make an inroad in the southeast, but he will not in any way threaten the preeminent position of the PDP politically in delivering the Southeast.
Well, we could have an argument, one way or another.
And then when you go to the Southwest, if you are talking about political titans in the Southwest, perhaps the presidential candidate of the APC, to me, comes a distant last. Why? Because in the Southwest, when you're talking about national political icons, you're talking about nationalists, you are talking about people with outstanding credentials over the years that have helped to nurture and create their own niche in the history of Nigeria. You talk about Chief Obafemi Awolowo, a former Minister of Finance and Health and National Planning, a premier of the southwestern of the Western region, and one of the architects of Nigeria's independence. You're talking about Ladoke Akintola, the same political. He was a premier. Premier of the Western region.
Yeah.
You talk about who? Chief Olufalaye. He was a secretary to the government, a minister of finance, a presidential candidate, and eventually he is also celebrated in the Southwest. Bashorun MKO Abiola defeated Tofa in Kano, his home state of Kano, and won predominantly across Nigeria. So when you talk about Bola Tinubu, you're talking of a Lagos politician of 8 years that has just, that is totally disconnected with the rest of the country. He cannot match the credentials of these people that I have listed. And so in the Southwest, it's a mismatch.
Okay, well, we could argue, about those points, but let me move on and talk about, because there are two things I want to get to before we have to end this conversation.
Okay.
Since you mentioned the North and your knowledge, your forensic knowledge of the North, let me go to that region.
Okay.
The governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, who appeared on this program last week, made the rather elemental point that there are no more elders in the North, and those who claim to be elders are more like paper tigers. How much is that part of the political debate in the North?
I think, first of all, let me say the statement by Governor Nasir El-Rufai is regrettable. And I don't know where or what, informed his utterance in that regard. It is, in the North, we have the Totif, he's a statesman. We have the Emir of Kano, he's a statesman. We have the Atta of Igala, he's a statesman. We have the Emirs of Bauchi, the Shehu of Borno, the Sultan of Sokoto, they are statesmen. We have Tanko Yakase, we have Lema Jibril. And we have people like Ango Abdullahi, who signed the certificate of Nasir El-Rufai as a quantity surveyor when he graduated from ABU. He is still in politics, and he is a northern elder, revered, respected, celebrated. And so for Nasir El-Rufai to have made a sweeping generalization to the effect that there are no elder statesmen or there are paperweights, I think it can only come out of the accidental public servant with an accidental discharge.
Right. Okay.
I do not see any reason for that comment, because look, what are we talking about? I would have thought that Nasir El-Rufai will be concerned about the plight of the people in his state. The conditions that are so horrific and horrendous in terms of the numbers of those kidnapped or killed. Within 6 months alone, 6 months back. This is from his commissioner, Samuel Arwan, that says 446 people have been killed in Kaduna State and 985 have been kidnapped. He is more concerned about talking about who is an elder, not so much concerned about the plight of his people. And I want to say without any equivocation and without any apology that Nasir El-Rufai is on his own, that his comments lame, preposterous, and injurious to his own political future as they may be, they are not in any way anywhere near, the voice of the North. And Nasir El-Rufai cannot, will never speak for the North. He is completely detached from the reality.
Let me move on from that and get you to get your reaction to this matter of the moment, which is the new Naira note.
Do you have some? I need some.
I like that. The APC accusing the PDP of causing the crisis and around the Naira swap issue. Obviously, as I said to Felix Moka, you don't run the monetary system, you don't employ the governor of the central bank. So in that context, what's your reaction to that accusation?
I think is for anybody to suggest that the PDP is to be blamed is not only lame, it's preposterous. It can only come out of the storybooks of the APC. This is a party that is in not only disarray, but in contemporary disconnect with the reality of the Nigerian situation, the reality of politics and political economy, the reality of sufferings and the reality of poverty, deprivation and deprivation that is all over the country, This is a party that whose government came up with the policy. It's not a PDP policy. So it is laughable for anybody to come out and say, oh, PDP is to blame. Again, one of the this is the first time, and probably it qualifies, at least in the Nigerian political history, that governors belonging to the party in power took their government to court over a monetary policy. The governors of Kogi, Kaduna, and Zamfara. They took the federal government, the central bank, and President Muhammadu Buhari to court over a policy that was well-intentioned, well thought of by the President Commander-in-Chief, and three of his governors of his own party said, no, Mr. President, you are wrong, simply because they have been ambushed, you know, by the fact that they have probably, some of the governors have stacks of billions, if not millions, if not billions, that they want to utilize to buy votes or to influence the outcome of the electoral process. And so when this policy came about, it completely, you know, took them by surprise. So they are looking for reasons to make sure that they ambush the process, they create problem for the central bank and the government, and then, lo and behold, when they discover that Nigerians are not happy with their own attitudes, they are now running back not to want to fight their own party members. They are now trying to overload it on the PDP. It was Atiku Abubakar, our candidate, that made a broadcast nationwide and showed solidarity with the government, but pleaded for an extension of time so that we can have, you know, a lot of many people change, you know, their currency. And now it is a policy that has been mishandled, mismanaged by the operators, and APC is looking for a hiding place. The best way is the usual, to come up and say, oh, it is PDP.
Right, okay. I want to say on that fiery note, thank you very much indeed for coming in, and also to say that any of those governors that he mentioned from any of those states, as well as Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State, have a right of reply if they want to. They can come on this program or any program on Arise.